This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. It's all right in front of our faces, ladies and gentlemen. As we know, they're sabotaging the United States of America. Many of us believe is Mystery Babylon. As we can see, the stories always tell us, and we always see a very common number in these stories. That's the number 33. And when we see a story about how America's national debt is now exceeded 33 trillion, I think our brains all start to think the same thing. Like this could be it right here, where they destroy the entire economy now that it's hit 33. So for those of you who are new to all this stuff, the number 33 holds just as much significance to the occult as the number 666. Most people always just think that they're going to find the number 666. Well, 33 is in everything just as much as that is. 33 is the number they use in all of their false flag events. You always hear 33 people there, 33 cops, the address of the home, 33. Or the school, you know what I mean, wink, wink. Always a number 33. 33 to them, that is the highest number you can exceed to in Freemasonry for a reason. You're supposedly enlightened. You know all the truth when you get to the 33rd degree. Of course, they're revealed to them that Lucifer is God, and that's who they truly worship. But 33 has significance for multiple reasons. 33 is 1/3, right? The number 33 is derived from 1/3. 1/3 of the fallen angels who were cast out of heaven. The fallen angels here on earth. 33 is also the age that it is believed that Jesus was murdered. So 33 means a lot to these people. All secret societies that these people are part of all start and begin with the basic principles in Freemasonry. And all of your politicians, whether they're in Skull and Bones or all these other secret societies, these Ivy League secret societies, they all started or at least were indoctrinated with the same beliefs as in Freemasonry. Freemasonry makes it easier for people in your local town to join into Freemasonry, to learn these things. And this is how they network, and this is how they expand in our society. This is how the STD, known as Freemasonry, has expanded. This is how the world has become what it is. It's Freemasonry for men, it's the Eastern Star for women, and then they groom and recruit children. The Freemasons have the DeMolays, which of course conveniently was one of the founders or one of the starters of DeMolay was Walt Disney, because a lot of the experiments were being done at Disney by the CIA on Disney grounds. Everybody knows that underneath Disney. I've covered it a trillion times. And for the females, which I always just call the Eastern Star witches, because that's what they are, they recruit Job's daughters and Rainbow Girls. They recruit young girls. So they begin grooming teenagers and kids as young as 8 years old into these secret societies so that when they're 18, they're already indoctrinated, and then they ascend in there. Then they put them in positions of, government positions. They put them in CEO positions of corporations, which is how we have all these woke corporations. That's how everything has gotten to the point it has. That doesn't mean Freemasonry is at the top of the pyramid. I get that. Sometimes people are like, who cares about Freemasonry? No, it does matter. It fully matters, because this is where you could directly start. This is where these people are. They're in your town. They're in every town in America. You'll see these signs on the highway for the Freemason Lodge, and you don't even know what you're seeing, right? You see the Freemason, the Lions Club, all these are all secret societies. They promote it on the highway, not because they're trying to be convenient to these people. Your tax money pays for these signs so that if somebody's in an opposite state, a different state for business, and they're a Freemason, they can stop at the lodge and interact and network with other Masons who worship the devil, right? While we're all blind to it, or at least they think that we are. So while the Vatican and the other people who like to bite on bagels day in and day out, while they're at the tippy top, every one of them has networked through Freemasonry. Every one of these people, they know all the teachings of Masonry because they coincide with one another. It's the same belief that Lucifer is the god of the earth. So that being said, with your quick lesson on the number 33, it's convenient that we know that everything's imploding around us and that the debt has hit 33 trillion. So the question is, what comes from here, right? What comes from here with the 33 trillion? Is this the death of the economy? Will we all wake up with $0 in our bank account? Who knows? Will tomorrow we see some type of world war hit, which of course was caused and started by our own government, which is really our own government attacking us? Will we see that, where we can have another great recession-like tragedy, which would really be a great reset done by design? So here's the story about 33 and how we finally reached there. And of course, Freemasonry happened to be trending on Twitter as well as all this happened, because more and more people are becoming aware of who's doing all of this and why everybody feels miserable and why everybody feels under attack. It's because of these sick, psychotic, psychopath Satanists.
If you and I consistently spend more than we make, we're probably going to end up in trouble. The federal government just adds on to the national debt. After a huge bump in COVID spending, the nation's current debt is now around $33 trillion. That's closing in on $100,000 each owed for every man, woman, and child in America. More from Scott Thuman.
Our national debt has never been higher, and it keeps on climbing. Interest payments alone cost the U.S. nearly $4 billion a day. To Maya McGuinness, president of the nonprofit Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, some belt-tightening in Washington is way overdue. What may appear out of control is the national debt. In 50 years, we've gone from $500 billion to $32 trillion. How do we ever dig our way out of that?
We are in big trouble right now because the norms of fiscal policy are exactly what they should not be. There are times it makes sense. When we are in an emergency like COVID or a huge recession, we absolutely should borrow. There are times when it does not make sense, like the huge growth spurt we had before we went into COVID under President Trump, or the inflationary period we've been having since COVID under President Biden. It's going to mean that we aren't able to be prepared for the next crisis.
So, in your eyes, have the last two administrations both overseen out-of-control spending?
Yes, they have. And the truth is that Republicans and Democrats like to cut taxes and grow spending. The bigger issue, though, is neither of them is willing to make changes to the existing problems. We have automatic growth in Social Security, Medicare, other health care programs, and now interest on the debt, which are leading to huge structural imbalances that are only going to grow going forward. Neither party has been really willing to take the measures and address all of the policies, meaning every part of the budget, that we have to get that budget rebalanced and the borrowing under control.
The presidency could be one of the hardest jobs on the planet. I think we'd all agree with that. How much harder is the job going to be for whoever's elected in 2024?
This next president is inheriting a very challenging fiscal situation. First, we just got through the debt ceiling, and luckily we were able to avoid default and put in place a package of savings, the largest package we've seen in over a decade. But that debt ceiling is going to come along again pretty soon after the new president takes office. I am very concerned that it has come to become such a political hot potato, and there's such a fight over it and a willingness by some to default that we could really risk default next time.
But aren't we, as Americans, which of course includes our elected officials, just numb to all this kind of talk by now?
We are. I mean, I think we're all numb to all of the shouting. First off, we don't really have kind of calm, thoughtful discussions. We have a lot of shouting.
But then why be optimistic that this is going to be taken seriously?
Did I say I was optimistic? I am gravely concerned. But I am deeply pessimistic, much more so than I used to be. Because as I said before, I think the biggest problem facing us is our division, our dysfunction, and our inability to govern. If we don't get our act together, we will be a weaker country, and American families will pay a real price in terms of their economic security, their opportunities, and what it looks like for not just the next generation. I think this could become a big problem sooner than we've been thinking as things heat up around the world.
Keeping the U.S. economy out of a crisis will be a key test for the next president as international challenges continue to mount. For Full Measure, I'm Scott Thuman in Washington.
So 33 trillion is the number that we're at. And the question is, where does it go from here? What comes out of this at the number 33, right? So another thing to keep your eye on is the correlation with our national debt, because people don't even know what that means. They hear national debt and they're like, who, we're in debt? What did they do? Add up all of our credit cards together? So we're all in debt to the banks and all that stuff. And then there's the people out there who are like, well, I don't have any debt. I pay off my credit card, or I don't have a credit card. It's not about your personal debt. It's about the country's debt. Okay. And this is all contrived and make believe for the most part. Right? We see what they do with the money that we give them through our taxes that they force us to give, when in reality, we are the ones who should have power over the IRS and over these people. The IRS shouldn't even exist, because what they're supposed to do with our tax money is work on infrastructure, roads, paving roads, the schools, which nobody wants to fund anymore, of course, because it's all brainwashing anyway. But these are things we were all told our tax money went to. Now we see our tax money goes to other countries, which is illegal, which is treason, because our tax money is not supposed to fund Ukraine. We see our tax money is going to, helping smuggle in other people, or people who are illegally coming into our country, us funding them, staying in hotels. This is all obviously done by design. to make all of us broke, to make us all insane, and then if we don't oblige by it, of course, throw us in jail. But what we're really in debt to, back to the topic here of the national debt, because people out there don't understand, America is in debt to China. That's right, China. That's how all of this works. We're in debt to other countries, China, Russia. And I'll show you a clip right now that I've used before, which is from over 10 years ago. So this number is nowhere near now, or nowhere near them what it is now. But we're in debt to China, which means China owns us, which you could see all the correlations between how China's government is run and how America is turning it to China with censorship, all these things. The only difference is that they're using the illusion of hate speech and bullying here in America because they know that nobody would buy into the way that they've pushed communism in China down people's throats. People in America would fight back. So they're weakening people here and convincing them of all these things. But we're in debt to China.
China has a huge vested interest in the American economy because it holds almost 25% of all foreign-owned U.S. debt. We owe the Chinese massive amounts of money. So what would happen if they immediately demanded payment? And why haven't they? Robert Krulwich always has a unique way of explaining things and does so in tonight's Closer Look.
These are kids in Shanxi, China, reading out loud all together. It's kind of a reading exercise. But what I want you to notice is what this girl is wearing. Notice she's in a coat, zipped up, and so is he, and so is she. Many classrooms, look at the hats here in Chinese public schools, are not heated in winter. Yes, it would cost money to put in central heating, but the Chinese government has money. Oddly enough, a lot of that money is in America. When the Chinese ship products to the United States, we Americans buy their goods.
Hi. How's it going?
And we, of course, pay dollars. So China right now is sitting on a big sack of U.S. money, which they invest in America.
Well, let's say that the Chinese sack of dollars is $1.4 trillion thick.
That's a lot of money. So some Chinese are asking, why not take the profits that China has made in America and sell U.S. stocks and bonds and dollars and turn them into Chinese money so China can fix some of the problems they've got at home? So if China is going to change $1 trillion into Chinese money, that means China is going to sell $1 trillion and buy a huge amount of Chinese money. And moving that much wealth from one nation to the other will lower the value of the U.S. dollar, raise the value of Chinese money, with the unfortunate effect that then anything made in China becomes more expensive in America.
If they take $1.4 trillion out of the United States and pour it into China, the value of the Chinese currency is going to more than double. If it more than doubles, everything we buy from China will be more than twice the price.
And when the price of dolls and basketballs and everything goes up here and we buy less, what happens to all those people in China who have jobs making things for America? The Chinese government can't risk that. So for the moment, they can't take their money out of America. Not yet. Robert Krulwich, ABC News.
So obviously being in debt to China and China owning land here, China, moving military in on the shores. We see all this stuff going on with China, at least if you're paying attention. China with the balloon, right? The conditioning with the balloon, which was obviously using topograph technology to monitor and, get all this data on our land. And this is our own government, obviously, okay? This isn't China sending a balloon. There's a reason our government didn't shoot the balloon down. China is in control of the United States of America. Obviously, we know the fabricated stories that they put out there about Joe Biden in China. They put that out there by design. They're prepping and conditioning people so they're not shocked when all this stuff goes down. Most people don't know that we're in debt to China. Most people don't know that China owns this country. And most people don't even know how much land the Chinese now own in our country. I mean, think about how insane that is. Can you buy 1,000 acres of land in China if you're in America? Can me or you? If, say, we walked into a room and found a briefcase with $1 billion, can we buy up half the land in China? Of course we can't. But they seem to be able to buy up the land here. You think that's just some type of coincidence? They're being given the land here, the farmland, etc. Right? And Bill Gates and all of them are working together. They're all globalists. It's not specifically about China, but it's about the thing you have to focus in on is the structure of their government, their control system, their social scores, their behavioral control. That is what's being implemented here in America just through different means of brainwashing. Okay? Doesn't mean that Xing P, whatever this guy's name is, this guy who, I mean, just look at the smug look on his face. I mean, who doesn't want to punt it like a football? But do you think that this guy is the guy who's totally in control? No. It's still the people in the shadows. He's just another puppet like all of them are. Now, he might end up being the face of a lot of this movement, just like Putin will be, as America, of course, will not be the face of any movement because they're completely sabotaging and showing America as weak so that they can conquer and take over America. And there's going to be so much chaos, it's going to be insane. But this is the story about 33 trillion national debt that I'm covering, okay? The question is, where do we go? What do we see? And that doesn't mean like, what do we do from here? Other people talk about this stuff. They're like, what do we do? Maybe we should pay the $1 trillion debt down from 33. Maybe we get it down to 20. No, it's a signal. They're signaling to us. They signal with the number 33. So this could be the ceiling for the implosion, right? Would anyone be shocked? This is what we've all been talking about for a while. When we hit 33 trillion, everything will begin to implode. We have Agenda 2025, which used to be Agenda 2030. And where are we? We're in September of 2023, which would give them a year and 3 months to 2025 to have this in place. The U.S. economy has to be imploded and destroyed. So we hit 33 trillion at the same time a government shutdown is looming. You see how this works? And they're talking about maybe extending the shutdown to October 31st, which would just be, if that happens, and then instead of October 1st, the shutdown, it goes to the 31st, it would be even funnier. Because, of course, that's their day. And it's not because they like to trick or treat, okay? It's Satan's day. And people are like, oh, it's Satan's day. Why? Because they play horror movies and all that stuff? No, it's Satan's day. It's when the veil is the thinnest. There's a reason why Halloween has been created into this holiday, which I'll cover closer to Halloween. I cover it every year for the new people out there that don't understand. The tie-ins, the actual occult rituals and human sacrifice, and how they summon spirits when the veil is the thinnest, the Beltane and Samhain, Halloween. So it'd be really funny if they do this on Halloween. They push it from the first. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Everything's right in front of us, right? They're making it so obvious that people are actually seeing people like me and you talk about this stuff, and they're like rolling their eyes because it's so in our faces. It's obnoxious. But would you think it would be any other way? I mean, when I think about all this stuff and I'm like, am I surprised that they're doing it so blatantly in our faces? I'm not actually, because I've said before that I think when the mark of the beast comes, everyone's like looking and they're like, oh man, it's going to be that. And then did you see, like, you know, it's a patent 666. I've seen everything. And I'm not saying it's one thing or the other, but honestly, would you be surprised if they come out and they advertise the mark of the beast the same way they advertise an Apple Watch? And like, the mark of the beast is here. And then all these people will be like, it's not the real mark of the beast. And they'll still take it. Christians will. Would you be surprised? Think about that. I've been saying it for a while that I actually believe that, because look how blatantly obvious all this stuff is. We all expose this stuff, right? Then this stuff comes to fruition. They tell us to our faces this stuff. Just like over on the website, if you haven't joined Uprising Revival, I recommend it. I put up a video on the Nipah virus. And then you have all the connections with, I mean, the stories that surround it with Bill Gates and then predicting this, telling you in 2021 that this was going to happen. And then it happens. And then they just create an mRNA. I mean, all at the same time, right? It's like they're so blatantly obvious that people aren't seeing it or catching on. They're just still rolling their eyes. So why wouldn't they come out and say, hey, the mark of the beast is here, and market it with Apple and tell everybody it's the mark of the beast, and everybody like, it's not literally the mark of the beast, and they'd still go get it. Would you be surprised? We're all looking for something that's hidden where we're like, you know, it's the code of 666. It'll be marketed as 666. It'll be so obvious, I believe, that people will be able to see it. It'll be so narcissistic and prideful and dumbed down that they'll actually take it, not even thinking it. They'll be like, that's too obvious for the mark of the beast. That can't be the real one. They're calling it that. They wouldn't call it that. Would you be surprised? Tell me in the comments section. Okay? So all of this stuff is blatantly in our faces, right? Is this the beginning of the destruction of the United States of America's economy, which is already being destroyed, as we could all see at the pumps, at the grocery store, the price of eggs? You know, people are like, oh, what's the big deal? It's a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal because nobody's has any money in the bank, okay? Which means everyone's living paycheck to paycheck. So when you live paycheck to paycheck and then they do this and they bomb the economy and they do some type of fake attack in America where and a government strike and the economy tanks completely and no one has any money, well, how are you going to get food and stuff? Oh, well, don't worry. Big Brother will roll in until you can have food and water. Of course, if you take the mark, take the magic potion, you know? Yeah. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Again, I hope to see more people over on uprisingrevival.com. And make sure you sub to my backup channel if you haven't yet. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.